In the barren desert of life, what would you do with your last morsel of bread? Would you dare to share, believing in the impossible? Today we uncover the untold story of a woman from the Bible, the widow of Zarephath, a single mother facing death, yet choosing faith over despair. Her story is a testament to divine grace and justice, where miracles sprout from courage. Join us on this emotional journey where a small decision alters destiny. Follow the channel to explore untold stories of women in the Bible, where redemption always awaits. Prepare your heart for a tale of modern relevance, for her faith can inspire you today. In the small town of Zarephath, nestled amid the parched desert of Sidon, the sight of a lone woman walking a dusty, sun-scorched path stirs pity in any onlooker. That woman is the widow of Zarephath, a little-known figure in the Bible, yet her story holds a quiet strength that can move any heart. Without a renowned name, holding no status or power in society, she is but a poor mother, scraping by with every grain of flour, every drop of oil to feed her only son in a rickety thatched hut. Her husband's death left her with the weight of grief and responsibility in a patriarchal society where widows were often seen as burdens. Each dawn before the sun blazed, she ventured out to gather dry twigs, forcing herself to pick scattered grains from the ground. These weren't just food, they were fragile hopes sustaining life. Meals for mother and son were often just flour mixed with water, sometimes a dash of oil from an old cracked jar. Her mind was haunted by worry. Would today's portions silence her son's hunger? Would tomorrow bring a flicker of hope, or only endless darkness? The backdrop of Sidon then was fraught with tension as King Ahab ruled Israel, his political and religious turmoil plunging the people into crisis. Ahab, leading the nation to worship Baal, lost the favor of the Most High. To punish this infidelity, a devastating 3-year drought ravaged the land, destroying crops, drying rivers, draining every water source. Here, each raindrop became treasure, each well a symbol of life. Zarephath's people, not of Israel, nor worshippers of the Most High, shared this cruel fate. Amid this plight, the widow of Zarephath became an emblem of precarious lives. Her kitchen's flour jar held but a whisper of dust. The oil jug sputtered its last drops, ticking down final moments. To her, death was no distant threat, but a present foe, scorching, starving, lonely. Each glance at her son, sleeping in the hut's corner, tightened her heart. A mother never wants her child to hunger, but in desperation, the last meal could only come from her meager stores. Then, in a desert silent night, a stranger's silhouette appeared at her thatched door. It was the prophet Elijah, sent by the Most High to this land. His tattered cloak, gaunt face etched with hardship, yet eyes ablaze with unyielding light. He carried a promise of faith, wisdom. Faith could shine in darkness, wisdom guide when reason failed. Elijah approached, softly asking, "Might I have a cup of water?" In the dry wind's rasp, the request seemed simple, but for the widow, it tugged at her and her son's very survival. As he sat by her kitchen corner, his wise gaze lingered on her flour jar, oil jug. He made a bolder plea, "Make me a cake from your last flour." Her heart froze. How could a mother give away the final food her son depended on? This conflict wasn't just about sharing food, it was an inner struggle between survival's instinct and a spiritual call. A mother's instinct urged her to hoard every grain for her child, preserving life. The spiritual call whispered that faith could unlock miracles, divine justice shining through tested courage. Refusing might mean Elijah's cake was their last meal. Agreeing meant entrusting all to an unseen promise she'd never known. In that moment, harsh days seemed to pause. The wind's howl stilled, her heartbeat echoed across the boundless desert. Loss and hope intertwined, like turbid and clear streams flowing against each other. She recalled late nights whispering prayers, begging the Most High to save her son from starvation. Then, as Elijah met her eyes, he offered reassurance. "Don't fear. Make me the cake first. For the Lord has said, the jar of flour will not empty, the jug of oil will not run dry." His words were a faint light in a dark storm. Not just a promise, but a challenge. If she truly trusted the Most High, a miracle would unfold. If not, death would come, an inescapable fate. She realized life sometimes demands the greatest risk for the grandest hope. With a deep breath, she lifted the flour jar, glanced at her sleeping son, and gently scooped the powder to knead. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the window, gilding Elijah's white hair, as if honoring a moment of courage ignited. Each kneading motion became slow, deliberate, more meticulous than ever. She whispered inwardly, "May my son and I live." No words needed, her emotions shone in ardent, resolute eyes. When the final cake emerged, she placed it in Elijah's hands, heart pounding as if to burst. Elijah took the cake, smiling faintly, nodding. That was the moment the miracle began to glow. The next day, she opened the flour jar, oil jug, stunned to find them as full as before. Each day, the miracle persisted, flour unemptied, oil undried. Every cake baked testified to unshakable faith. The rickety hut became a warm haven, where hope and kindness spread through the village. The widow of Zarephath, once a lonely figure, became a beacon of hope, a torch guiding through the drought's darkness. Her story, though millennia distant, still resonates in modern hearts. Who hasn't faced a choice between fear and trust? Who hasn't doubted miracles amid trials? The widow of Zarephath reminds us that sometimes a single bold decision, a leap of faith, can rewrite our destiny. And in life's barren desert, hope can always sprout from courage. In a breathless moment of stillness, the widow of Zarephath stood at her kitchen door, clutching the flour jar as if it were life's last treasure. Blazing sunlight streamed through the door's cracks, making the air hotter, stifling. Sweat beaded on her brow, but fear burned fiercer than the desert's blaze. She whispered, voice trembling like dry leaves, "Sir, this jar holds just enough flour and oil for one cake. I meant to bake it for my son, then we'll wait for death to come." Her soft words echoed in the cramped space, stirring the soul like the choked sobs of countless widowed women across history's epic. Flour and oil, seemingly lifeless objects, now bore a weight heavier than any weapon or gold. They were a child's fragile hope, a family's fleeting life. Each moment she felt a tight bond between a mother's instinct and despair. In a patriarchal society, widows like her already faced prejudice. Now fate added a final tear to her empty cup of life. Amid this utter deadlock, a calm, resolute voice broke through. "Elijah, prophet of the Most High, gazed at her with eyes ablaze with passion, profound compassion. He raised a hand, reassuring, "Don't fear. Make me a cake first, for the Lord has said, the jar of flour will not empty, the jug of oil will not run dry." His promise was a strange breeze, easing the oppressive air, yet also a subtle trap, testing her faith to its limits. How could a mother easily stake her son's life on a promise? How could she risk her last hope on a divine word she'd never seen fulfilled? Her senses sharpened, ears caught the desert wind hissing through cracks. Eyes traced Elijah's weathered, trusting gaze. Heart pounded as if to leap from her chest. An inner conflict surged like a tidal wave. A mother's instinct urged her to save the cake for her son. Human nature warned that giving it to a stranger meant starvation. Yet her heart yearned to embrace a miracle, to trust the Most High's promise. She recalled silent, prayer-filled nights, kneeling before her son's small form, tears falling, begging God to spare him hunger. Through 3 years of drought, she'd seen loss, fields cracked, wells turned to mud, familiar neighbors fleeing for promised lands. It all seemed to crush her widowed heart, pushing her to hope's final edge. Now Elijah, a stranger in tattered robes, entered her life, bearing a promise challenging both reason and heart. She stepped back, hands gripping the jar's rim, as if clinging to life's last warmth. "Are you sure God won't forsake us?" she cried, voice choking. "For 3 years we've proudly leaned on him, but he seems silent." Elijah didn't rush to answer. He bowed his head, hands clasped, lips murmuring prayer. The air fell silent, save for a lingering sigh. After a long pause, he looked up, eyes radiant. "God's justice isn't absent. In your pain, he prepares a miracle. The trials you endure are the foundation for grace to shine." His words were oil on fire, igniting hope, fanning fear. Was this hollow comfort, or would a miracle come? Trusting meant betting all on an untested promise. Refusing meant accepting her hut's descent into starvation. Her gaze darted to the faint sunlight flooding the tiny kitchen. Bare mud walls, cracked dirt floor. Her son's soft snores from the corner echoed in silence. She heard her heartbeat, each pulse a searing question. She recalled clinging to faith, silent prayers, but also the despair when heaven seemed dry. All wove a misty veil across her path. A thought flashed. If Elijah was the answer to her deepest prayers, dare she try? If miracles were real, this was her only chance to save her son. She realized faith isn't always reason, but a brave step when no path remains. Perhaps to grasp light, one must plunge into darkness. With a heavy heart, she took a deep breath, meeting Elijah's eyes. Her parched lips parted. She softly said, "If your words are true, I'll make your cake first. But if no miracle comes, my son and I will starve." Her vow rang in the space, a heroic ode to fragile, fierce life. Elijah nodded, eyes brimming with faith. "Trust, for the God of life won't fail you." He stepped to the kitchen corner, guiding her to mix flour into dough, a simple recipe rich with spiritual meaning. Flour dusting her fingers spread warmth, as if, even in want, life could sprout. Each kneading motion was slow, sacred, a holy rite. She felt a wondrous strength threading through her fingers, her movements. The wind outside hushed, yielding to their steady breaths. Two souls united in faith. The final cake, born of hope, courage, rested gently in Elijah's hands. As he took the first bite, she watched his weathered face glow with hope. And then, the miracle began. The next day, the flour jar remained full, the oil jug brimming. Her smile wasn't just for the miracle, but for herself, a woman brave enough to trust wholly. The initial conflict, from doubt to decision, was but a prelude to a tale of faith, miracles. The widow of Zarephath, through a small yet profound act, showed that faith can save a life, ignite hidden strength in each soul. In our modern world, not all believe in miracles, but who hasn't faced a choice between fear and courage? At fate's crossroads, one decision can bloom a miracle in our hearts. The widow of Zarephath closed her eyes, drawing a deep breath, letting it surge through every corner of her heart. Her trembling hands brushed the cold stone of the kitchen table, then slowly lifted the flour jar. Late-day sunlight slipped through door cracks, illuminating tiny flour grains floating in the air, like miniature stars dancing before her. In that moment, all sounds seemed to hush. Only her racing heartbeat and Elijah's steady breaths filled the space. She began kneading dough. Each motion was gentle yet resolute, as if with every press she ventured deeper into faith's path. Her heart brimmed with tangled emotions, fear, hope, a flicker of untested miracles. Her son slept soundly in the hut's corner, a thin blanket wrapped around his small legs. She glanced at him, heart-wrenching, then refocused on kneading. Each press of her hands sent flour scattering, clinging to her palms, reminding her life was as fragile as brittle. Elijah stood silently watching, his pensive face radiating deep faith. He neither encouraged nor urged, his gaze alone transmitting invisible courage. When the small, round cake took shape, she gently placed it in Elijah's open hands. The cake's details stood clear. Just enough dough, faint cracks like faith's fragile smile. She bowed her head, eyes brimming with tears, then quietly left the kitchen, leaving behind a trace of hope. The woman didn't know what would follow. She only knew that amid the barren desert and starvation, she chose hope over fear. It was her life's bravest act, proof of a faithful heart's hidden strength. She wondered, would the Most High's promise, as Elijah claimed, hold true? Would the flour jar truly not empty? Would the oil jug keep yielding its sweet light? The next morning, dawn bathed Zarephath, but the marvel wasn't the sunrise's hue, but the unexpected fullness of the flour jar, the oil jug. She entered the kitchen, heart pounding, legs unsteady. Her hand touched the jar, mere days ago scraped to its base. Now flour gleamed white, brimming as if untouched. The oil jug bubbled, clear droplets like tiny gems. She exhaled softly, tears streaming down her cheeks. That was when the miracle began to glow. That day, she baked another cake, not for Elijah, but for her young son. His cheerful "Mama" rang out, making her dream of survival more real than ever. Though just a small cake to the widowed family, it was boundless joy. Each bite, each grain carried warmth, sacred maternal love. Yet the miracle didn't stop at 2 cakes. The next day she saw the jar still full, the jug undrained. Day after day, the miracle persisted. Each cake born affirmed unshakable faith. Word of the marvel spread swiftly through the village, from its smallest corners to the main path. Villagers knocked at her thatched kitchen, bearing empty water pots, handfuls of gleaned flour, seeking a taste of hope. She stood quietly, watching people line up, her eyes, once wide with astonishment, now blending joy. Empathy, baking and sharing became more than acts, a profound duty for one chosen to spread light. In each cake given, she shared faith, hope, humanity. Her bond with Elijah grew from this sharing. He chose to stay in her home, not just to witness the miracle, but to guide her in faith, wisdom. Though unlinked by blood, love, and trust in divine justice bound them. Each dawn, Elijah prayed by the fire, teaching her to turn hardship into chances for miracles. She, with eyes growing radiant, listened, learned, shared. Weeks passed, drought still raging outside, but Zarephath's inner thirst seemed quenched. Faces once gaunt with craving brightened. Children's laughter echoed through alleys, replacing hunger's cries. Her once frail hands brimmed with flour, her heart with unceasing hope. One afternoon, Elijah led her beyond the village, to fields silvered by drought. Pointing to the cracked earth, he said, "Divine justice didn't just save you and your son. It reminds us faith's mission isn't mere survival, but lighting others' paths." His words etched her soul. She recalled standing before her flour jar, thinking miracles were for her alone. Now she saw the greatest miracle wasn't unending flour or oil, but hearts awakened, spreading love, hope. Back home, she poured water into a small clay basin, distributing it to the village's poor in ceramic cups. She smiled, eyes gentle yet determined. Each recipient took the water as renewed strength, fuel for another day. Thanks rang through the kitchen, not just for flour or oil, but for the woman who dared to believe, act. From then, the widow of Zarephath became a vivid icon of courage, faith. No longer just a poor mother, she was a torch of hope amid barrenness. Her story, a nameless woman walking a desert, became a heroic ode to faith, turning impossibility into possibility. To villagers, she was no longer a pitiable widow, but a witness to divine justice. In our modern age, facing different droughts, loss, doubt, life's pressures, her story still echoes. Who hasn't known dark days, hope nearly spent? Who hasn't stood at a crossroads, fear versus faith? Her act reminds us that sometimes one leap of faith can right our miracle. Others, so in despair, recall that small woman. Trust a miracle can sprout within you. Acting, growing isn't just surviving, it's living to spread light. And each of us, with even the smallest cake, can be a flame guiding the world. Share, believe, become light in darkness, as the widow of Zarephath did. The air in the rickety thatched hut grew more stifling than ever as dusk sank behind distant sand dunes. Each day, the widow of Zarephath trusted Elijah's promise, baking cakes for her son, sharing food with the village. The miracle of the unemptying flour jar, the undrying oil jug, had become a living testament to a mother's faith. Yet, the cruelest trial had not yet released her. One early morning, as dawn still slumbered over the dunes, she found her son motionless on his bed. His face was pale as wrung cloth, lips parched without a drop of milk. Wiping tears, she fought for calm, pressing a hand to his chest for a pulse, but felt no beat. Her world collapsed beneath her feet. Never had a mother's heart shattered so. Memories of hardship swirled, meager meals, her son's giggles beside tiny cakes, Elijah's promise of boundless miracles. She knelt, clutching her lifeless child, wailing in despair. "Oh Lord, why must I bear this suffering? I believed, I gave everything. Where is your miracle now?" Her maternal instinct urged her to scream her pain to the universe, but the desert wind outside tolled a silent bell. Her son had survived days of scorching thirst, but against illness, he was too fragile. She stared at the cracked mud walls as if they wept with her. In that moment, all faith seemed to vanish. She turned to Elijah, eyes tender yet seething. Did you come to test me, to remind me of my sins?" Her words echoed like a blade slicing her soul. She questioned the prophet, seeking answers for the unfolding tragedy. Elijah stood silent, offering no defense. He bowed, gently touching the old wooden table, then slowly lifted the boy. His eyes held boundless faith, mercy. He laid the child on the bed, trembling hands tucking a thin blanket over him. A sacred stillness enveloped the small room. No blame, no sign of helplessness, only reverent quiet. Elijah clasped his hands, closed his eyes, began to pray. His prayer rose softly, resonating through mud walls, a bridge between heaven and earth, between the despairing widow and the Most High. He pleaded, "Almighty Lord, hear me. Restore life to this child. You promised not to forsake those who trust you." 3 times the prayer sounded, each like a pulse of fate. The air seemed to freeze, sounds fading, leaving only the mother's racing heart, waiting. She knelt by the bed, eyes fixed, hands gripping the bedsheet, yearning for a miracle. Then the miracle came. Faint but real breaths emerged, filling the room with new life. The boy twitched, eyelids fluttered, lips murmured, "Mama." With returning warmth, she held her breath, mind exploding with emotion. Happiness surged, filling her heart's vast void. She rushed to embrace him, sobbing in God. Tears mingled with his soft laughter, a symphony of life. She whispered through tears, "You're alive. You're alive. Oh God, you truly exist." Divine justice now was no mere promise, but radiant reality. The miracle wasn't just unending flour or oil, but complete redemption, light banishing all darkness. The widow realized faith isn't a bargain, but a proud stride through life's storms. The miracle didn't stop there. As word of the marvel spread through Zarephath, villagers flocked to her hut, eyes mixing awe, admiration. They brought corn baskets, scant dry grains, rare water, seeking to share Grace's bread. But in her hands now wasn't just the original jar and jug, but a new burden. Hope she must sustain, spread. Elijah smiled, gazing at the scene with compassion. He taught the crowd that the miracle wasn't for one family alone, but proof of faith's, love's power. "Remember," he said, voice warm, resonant, "divine justice comes to those daring to trust, no matter how thick the night." Through this ordeal, the widow grew wiser, stronger. She understood redemption wasn't just cakes, oil, but a call to share. She wasn't just a miracle's witness, but hope's messenger. Each morning she baked, not only for family, but for the less fortunate around her. Each cake given reminded that In direst straits, miracles can sprout. The widow's story, from her first cake to her son's restored breath, is a journey of tested, proven faith, multiplied love. Though history may forget her humble name, the miracle she and Elijah wrought echoes as a heroic ode to divine justice. In our modern world, facing droughts of faith, humanity, her story endures, reminding us, never abandon trust, though storms sweep hope away. For when we believe in the impossible, miracles bloom, lighting hearts thought extinguished. As the widow taught, a courageous act doesn't just save oneself, it saves a community, letting love, hope endure forever. The widow of Zarephath closed the final thatched door behind her, but her steps no longer bore the lonely, frail gait of before. From a poor mother scraping by with every grain of flour, every drop of oil, she had transformed into a vibrant symbol of faith, courage. The image of the unemptying flour jar, the undrying oil jug, was not just a wondrous miracle, but proof of the Most High's boundless love, never forsaking souls yearning for divine justice. Her son, once thought lost, now darted through the thatched hut, radiant with smiles. His small footsteps rang like a triumphant hymn, opening a new chapter of hope. Each time he looked at his mother, his clear eyes held deep trust, gratitude. That innocent child became a living testament to Elijah's promise, to the widow's unshakable faith. Every mama from his lips sparked her heart with joy, gratitude, endless comfort. The once humble hut now glowed with spiritual light. Every wall corner, every mossy tile bore the miracle's mark. Sunlight streamed through cracks, casting shimmering streaks on the dirt floor, as if reminding that even in the darkest places, grace can slip through, illuminate. The hot cakes she baked fed not just bodies, but fueled the souls of villagers around. From trembling elders to youths weary from drought's heat, all who came to Zarephath's home brought corn baskets, water jugs, leaving with hearts brimming with hope. The widow understood the miracle didn't end when her son revived. It lived on in small acts, sharing her last cake with a stranger, praying for drought's end, wiping tears from a hungry child. The Most High's grace came not just in sustaining bodies, but in moments when hands clasped, sharing love. In each grateful glance, each budding smile, she saw divine justice manifest. Her journey, though millennia past, still echoes in our modern world. We face droughts of many forms, loss of loved ones, self-doubt, economic hardship, souls parched, thirsting for a drop of hope. In crisis, sometimes a single turn of courage, a choice to trust over fear, can bring miracles back to life. The widow of Zarephath taught us that with just one small cake, we can share, making the world less hungry, fuller with love. From her sacred story, we draw a clear message. Faith doesn't thrive only in beauty, but shines proudest when tested in darkness. When we give, we don't just offer tangible wealth, but invisible strength, wondrous miracles within. Sharing isn't a sign of lack, but the source of abundance, abundant compassion, faith, hope. And when that light touches others, it creates a chain of reflection, spreading stronger than any torch. Dear American audience, The widow of Zarephath's story isn't just an ancient legend, but a call to live bravely, share today. You may not hold treasures or power, but you always have a smile, a kind word, a generous act to give. Each small gesture can ignite a miracle in another's life, as the widow did with her cake, precious oil. That's the divine justice we long to find. If this story touched your heart, please hit subscribe to not miss the next chapters of our journey exploring untold Bible stories. Share this video with friends, family, so all can know the power of faith, courage. Don't forget to comment below. I'd love to hear your stories of miracles in your life. May God continue to bless, guide each of us on the path of hope. See you in the next video, where we'll uncover another inspiring story, rich with profound messages of faith, love. Don't miss it.